to Supernatural Selection. I'm your host, Kevin the Bastard. This week is Mike the Skeptic. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, I guess.
Okay.
Nothing. I'm not working any major issues.
Awesome. And also, we have got Mr. David Davis. David, how are you doing this week?
I own a puppet now.
Oh, you said you were going to get a puppet. Tell me about the puppet. Tell me about your finger puppet.
So the puppet isn't... it's going to need some work. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of long blonde hair. It's got like the Muppet-style quality, like Sesame Street kind of thing. Okay. So I'm going to be able to modify it a little bit.
Oh, that's cool. So
is it it's not a string puppet, it's a wear on your hand puppet?
Yeah, one thing that is missing, it is missing a rod for the hand. Like there was no rod attached to it, so I'm gonna have to attach one.
You can get
that
those,
way. I'll be able to
actually.
maybe do some. Yeah, I mean it's I can just use like a frickin' barbecue skewer or something like that. But no, like I just I want to do some stuff with a puppet, and it's a pretty good puppet base to work with.
Okay,
so yeah,
that's cool. Man, boy, how many people do I know now that are gonna be dealing with puppets? That's crazy. Yeah. And I've got, Tom Servo. He's a puppet. So, yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
There you go.
You're puppetless. You need to fix that. And we're going to Dragon Con.
Kevin, I have you. You're my puppet.
Oh, no.
Well, just wash your hands first.
Yeah.
No, we're going to Dragon Con, which is in Atlanta, which has the, what is it called again? The Center for Puppetry.
Yeah, something like that.
It's got, some International Center for Puppetry or something like that.
And there's like a huge puppet track at Dragon Con, so that's really I'm kind of interested. I want to see what kind of puppets they may have for sale there and then come back with wasted money.
Well, we could do an entire puppet episode of Supernatural Selection
We'd
eventually.
have to do like video then.
Yeah, there's a puppetry museum and the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I love puppets, man. Puppets are great.
I know. Same here. I really like puppets.
It's the United States' largest organization dedicated to the art form of puppetry.
Man, there's going to be a fucking bronze statue of Jim Henson out front.
Yeah.
Because you don't get much bigger than Jim Henson in the world of puppetry.
Yeah, and when you say puppets, Jim Henson's kind of like the guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. And what's a Muppet? It's not a mop and it's not a puppet, but oh boy.
I appreciate that reference.
Yes, I'm glad you did. So, we are covering a really interesting topic this week. It is our first actual object that exists. Mm-hmm. We're doing it's pronounced Voynich, correct? The Voynich Manuscript.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Oh, yes. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've been familiar with this thing for years, and I'm excited to be talking about it. And you, of course, have done your amazing research as usual.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's going to be neat because this is what I hope is the first of many episodes about like artifacts and unexplained objects.
Yeah, this is going to be great. Mike, you were going to say something?
Not really.
Okay, well, book nerds, get your seatbelts on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then I believe we're also going to be posting the script to the episode when it goes up as well. So you'll be able to go through and see all you'll see the outline, you'll see all the little jokes put in and everything like that. So
yeah. So what I'm thinking is that's kind of going to be our show notes from here on in. We'll have a link to our script, which has links to stuff in there, and you can get an idea of what kind of research goes in and what part of this is improv.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because believe it or not, a lot of this is researched.
Yes, shockingly so. So, David, why don't you fire this thing up for us?
Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and dive into this thing called the Voynich Manuscript.
Yes.
So, the Voynich Manuscript, in the most basic description I can muster, is a 15th century tome filled with trippy, surrealistic imagery and presented in what appears to be a wholly original language.
Now, there are some people who argue against this, but enough language experts have actually looked at it that it shows all signs of real language, and I'm willing to believe that.
Yeah, we're going to look at the complicated history of analysis regarding this manuscript because, like, a lot of very, very intelligent people have been, like, coming at this thing from all sorts of different angles, and we still have no idea what the hell it is.
That's very true. We're still no closer to knowing what this thing is written in.
Right. Now, the thing is, there has still not been an agreed-upon translation of the text within this time, and as we'll see, many translations of the years have been claimed, but they just do not accomplish this. It's still inscrutable, even today.
Now, I don't know if you're going to bring this up, but did you know that a lot of people say it's Hebrew? And every time they say that, it's wrong. And again, it always comes back to the Jews.
Well, and you know, this is interesting because we're going to see many of those claims today when I go over kind of the history of how people are approaching this text.
Oh, good.
But, like, it's entirely possible that it could be a form of Hebrew. We'll talk about how someone had posited that theory in, like, 2020, and then 2 weeks later, someone came out and, like, no, that's incorrect, here's why. So, yes. Yeah, we have the latest update to this process of exploring this text was in August of 2021, actually.
Holy
so
crap.
We're pretty, people are still at this thing.
Jesus, we're almost topical, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're only a year away.
Okay.
So for my sources today, and yes, I have sources, they're going to range from a scan of the manuscript itself, which I have in the article or in the outline so you guys can click it and take a look at it. I believe I had you two gentlemen take a good look at it today as well.
Which I've been through it a few times, so yes.
Yeah. And then I'm also going to be using some articles that discuss the history and the attempts to crack the code of what the hell the book is. And I'm just going to kind of mention the sources as we go.
Now, before we go into this, Mike, what have you known about this thing?
So I know it exists.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we've covered that.
I know it's a mysterious book. I don't rightly remember like what era it's from, but I do know it was like, nobody really knows anything about its origins, who wrote it, what language it's in, what it's describing, what it's even about. I mean, there's pictures in it, but they don't really show anything known on this plane of reality.
Well, and it's interesting because there's definitely elements like, everybody talks about how alien the plants are, and to a degree there is an alien nature to them, but you'll also see in some sections of the books it's literally just different plant parts from different plants combined,
right? Which
is interesting. So regarding the manuscript, here is what we know pretty conclusively thanks to codicologists.
That is a really big word for book nerds.
Yep, people who study ancient books, I believe. So based on the archival notes at Yale's Benneke Rare Book and Manuscript Library, the Voynich Manuscript, sometimes known as the Cipher Manuscript, likely originated in Central Europe.
Okay.
Now, the publication or creation is assumed to be between the dates of 1491 to 1599 CE, with the general estimate being somewhere in the 15th century, like the latter part of the 15th century.
So, like, yeah, like you said, around the 1490s.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, based on some of the evidence, this may have been written in Italy during the Italian Renaissance.
Well, that's when, smart people had money and time to do that sort of thing. So that makes sense. Right, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the current page count of the manuscript is around 240 pages, though that depends on how one might count the folding elements. Because it does have a couple of essentially centerfolds, basically.
Oh, boy.
It is likely, however, that the document at some point had close to 270 or so pages in 20 quires, quires being a measurement of 25 sheets or so around the same size.
Okay.
It can depend on the type of book and everything like that. But it seems that some of those pages have been lost over the years. So we have that idea of what a quire is, which is a bundle of like 25 pages or so. Typically, during the Middle Ages, a quire was the gathering of 4 folded sheets of vellum or parchment, which would equal about 8 leaves and 16 sides.
Okay, so basically an ash can for
Yeah,
those making
yeah. If
comics.
you've ever had to make your own little book, you fold the sheets, you cut the top, that sort of thing.
Right.
Now, I don't want to spend too much time on old bookmaking, as interesting as it is.
Oh, that's a Patreon episode right there.
Right, I think it's fascinating. But if you're curious, I found my information from the University of Nottingham. Just Google parchment quire and check the first result, and that's Quire.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Spell that for us.
Now, another point about this. Codicologists know about the estimated 270 pages due to the numbering within the text and the gaps in the established numbering system on the right-hand pages. So this thing does have pagination.
Right.
And so there are these suggestions that, at least in a few points in its history, the book may have been reordered, as in the book may have been unstitched and had pages moved around.
Goddamn Council of Nicaea can't leave anything alone.
Council of Nicaea ain't nothing to fuck with. So we're not necessarily dealing with a great deal of accuracy regarding the book's true nature due to centuries of potential editing. For example, there are some cases of images being touched up, like with the darkening of some fading illustrations.
Okay, Mike, I want you to imagine something about this, all right? It's talking about being touched up. Now, imagine the lady that did Monkey Jesus got a hold of this.
Being felt up.
Yes.
I love that painting.
I swear.
Oh, Monkey Jesus.
All praise our Lord and Savior, the Monkey Jesus.
Now, I could go on about the book's physical characteristics because there's been exhaustive studies about it.
Yeah.
As much as I'd like to, that would take up too much time, so here are some highlights about some of these physical characteristics. First, some parts of the manuscript were radiocarbon dated at the University of Arizona in 2009, indicating a date in the early half of the 15th century. Right. Mike, what can you tell us about radiocarbon dating?
Okay, so I read the Wikipedia article. I mean, I generally knew what it was, but the specifics. So, as it obviously sounds, it is using the radioactive isotope of carbon-14, to determine the date of something. Now, it only pertains to organic things, plants or animals, because what it is cosmic rays hit, when they hit our atmosphere, they turn a small percentage of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to carbon-14. And that is taken in by plants and animals. And as a plant or animal is alive, it has pretty much the same amount of carbon-14 in it as the atmosphere. But once it dies, it stops all intake of carbon-14.
Right.
And since it's a radioactive particle, it starts to decay. And they use the half-life of the carbon-14 and in relation to the overall amount of carbon to determine the age, since everything radioactive decays at a known rate. The problems do come in, though, because there are variations, like the amount of carbon in the carbon-14 in the atmosphere isn't always the same. So, in fact, in the modern age, industrialization and the burning of fossil fuels has put a lot more unradioactive carbon into the atmosphere. So, obviously, something with lower amounts of carbon-14 looks older. Well, plants and animals today, if you just used a, broad, set for everything, would look older based on the carbon-14 because we have less carbon-14 in us.
Interesting.
But also, due to nuclear testing, that also puts spikes of carbon-14. So they have to, so they've had to recalibrate as it goes. But so when they first started, they used things of known age, which were mostly in Egypt, Egyptian things. But they started to see some variations because at first everything lined up, but then things started not lining up. And so they're like, well, which was real, which the, chronologically dated Egyptian artifacts or the radiocarbon. So they started using tree rings, since we can get up to I think it said 15,000 years of data from that. And so they were able to model, how much carbon was in the atmosphere in certain eras and use that as the template to say, when something was, when they radiocarbon date something.
So they can take that into account while...
Exactly.
Okay, so it's like, okay, well, during this period, there was this much in the atmosphere, so we have to adjust our estimates.
Yeah. And so it is, the half-life of carbon is 5,730 years, plus or minus 40 years. So that gives us an approximate useful time of 50,000 years.
That we can
radiocarbon date something back to.
Okay, well, I mean, that sounds like that is I'm not going to say perfectly accurate, but a fairly accurate assessment of, like, something such as this book, then.
Yeah, so, within, say, 40 years of accuracy on the age of this book.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, no, that's perfect. All right, so that test was conducted in 2009. Another thing to note, you were talking about how it's plant and animal matter, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the vellum is likely calf skin.
Yeah.
And testing suggests at least 14 to 15 total calf skins were used in the book's creation. Now, I dug up this information in a 2017 edition of the New York Review of Books Journal, which I found on a database that I have access to through the college that I work at.
Well, that's a hell of a thing to include in a review.
So like 14 to 15 baby cows died for this book.
Okay, I want everyone to remember that.
So, lastly, this thing has probably had at least 2 covers. One cover was made of goat skin, likely used while in possession of, or while it was in the possession of the Collegio Romano, which was first established in the 16th century.
Was that Ray Romano's brother?
Oh.
His brother from Italy.
Oh, everybody loves Collegio.
So, judging by some insect holes in the first and end folios of the current manuscript as it exists right now, there is sufficient evidence to suggest that it had a wooden cover at some point as well.
This is truly the Noah's Ark of books.
Right, there's just so much data about this fucking thing.
Yeah, and so many animals died for this book.
So, I picked up this last bit of information about the covers from an independent researcher whose background is not in medievalism, but rather he's a guy with a PhD in orbital sciences, René Zandbergen.
Okay.
But he put together quite a great website. So I found the overall quality of, that he put into the research and the depth of his references to make the site an invaluable resource. And if you want to view the work he's done, you could do that at voynich.nu.
Again, you can check out this script. There will be links to the things we mentioned.
So I had an interesting thought. So you said originally, so it's vellum of calf skin and probably a wooden cover.
Yeah.
So that's completely backwards from how we do books today with leather covers and paper.
Shit,
pages.
you're right. Holy crap. We've been doing it wrong all this time. I gotta go right on a cow.
and
It's very weird.
It is.
I just find it funny that over the years it just flip-flopped.
Yeah. It's like that movie, the new Buzz Lightyear movie that came out. They had like a reverse sandwich where like he goes into the future. Yeah, and then it's like the sandwich, the meat sandwich where the meat is the bread. Just like one slice of bread in the middle.
Didn't they do that on Ren and Stimpy? They had like the toasted meat sandwich with meat in the middle.
I remember getting one of those from KFC.
That was a double down. It's a
yeah.
fucking nightmare of a sandwich.
That was awesome, and I
no,
nothing else.
It wasn't.
It was too salty.
Mine wasn't that salty. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think they liked you, David. I think they added the special sauce.
it was basically chicken cordon bleu, but in a sandwich form.
Yeah, the most
More like chicken
redneck
cordon
version.
bleu.
Ah, nice.
Okay, so I want to take a moment here to discuss something that I'm finding very interesting. We've covered many characteristics, and we've seen like tested and observed characteristics of a physical object, and this is like one of the few times we've had any of this in our topics.
Right.
This is one of the most verifiable mysteries we've covered with a greater volume of evidence, and that's because it's an actual fucking object that fucking exists.
I know. It's like, I don't know. It's so weird to like talk about something that's actually there that didn't destroy a bridge.
Exactly. And and there are other objects out there, so I'm hoping we'll be able to do some more of these. Like, for example, I know that I have one that I'm interested in, but can you guys think of any like objects that you want to cover?
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say the Acathmethyr device.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, that or the Dropa stones.
Yeah, I was thinking of that column in India.
Ooh, the one
or
made of
Pakistan.
iron.
Yeah,
No, it's
the
in
iron
India,
that
yeah.
like does not rust at all.
Yeah, it's like 2,000, 3,000 years old, and it's never rusted, and it's like intricately carved and made of one piece.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think there's potential for a lot of these, but like it's interesting. Like of all the things that we have covered and that we are going to cover, like this thing is a thing that actually exists.
Yeah, you
Like,
could.
you can.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Thought of another one, but
What's that?
up until this year, the Georgia Guidestones.
Oh, shit.
We
we could still
do an
talk
in
about it.
memoriam.
Yeah.
But they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I know, but they did. But the thing, yeah, no,
So you say.
the Voynich, I keep saying Voynich in my head, but it's Voynich manuscript is real. You can go out there and lick it.
Oh, I
probably
don't know
good
if you could
security.
do that, because I've had to go to special collections at a library, and they will like eyeball you if you open up your mouth near something that's rare and old. So
Close your mouth. I'll
Probably have to wear like gloves and a body suit.
Yeah.
put a condom on my tongue. Wait,
one of the colleges I went to had a massive collection of like old sci-fi collected from like the 1920s. And in order to see a couple of the volumes of stuff they had there, I actually had to go in there and like wear gloves and shit.
yeah. Oh, man,
yeah.
you must have felt like a Dan Brown character.
It was really nice, but it was like an old issue, or it was like an old collection of like amazing tales or whatever. Just like,
Oh, man.
oh,
God, that's awesome.
yeah. So yeah, I think we have enough about like the fact that like, okay, we can all agree that this is a thing that exists.
Yeah.
There's too much information at this point to.
There's
to
too many
argue,
pictures
no,
and
it's a lie.
scans and yeah. No, it's the moon.
According to the hologram theory of
God damn it!
Shit.
nothing really exists.
God damn it. Look, I didn't know we had Clark over there.
Nah, no.
Clark is like a firm believer in that we're in the simulation.
Well, I'm talking about just the hologram,
Oh, right. Yeah.
the multi-dimension representing as 3-dimension.
Yeah, no, I hate that theory. Let's move on.
Yeah, it does melt your brain.
Yeah, I'm not drinking, so
All right, that's fair. Let's go ahead and start moving into like theories and such.
Yeah.
Now, in that regard, I include the content on what is actually in the book, because with so much of this book being a mystery, the things seen on the page are subject to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I quote the Benneke Library of Yale's overview of the content here. So from here on, I'm direct quoting for a little bit.
All right.
All right. Based on the subject matter of the drawings, the contents of the manuscript fall into 6 sections. 1. Botanicals containing drawings of 113 unidentified plant species.
I'm going to butt in here because looking through them, most of them look like marijuana.
I wasn't going to say anything, but yeah.
Well, and I have a theory about that. So
Yes,
we'll get to
I'm
that
sure
towards
you
the end.
do.
Yep. 2. Astronomical and astrological drawings, including astral charts with radiating circles, suns, and moons. Zodiac symbols such as fish for Pisces, a bull for Taurus, and an archer for Sagittarius. Nude females emerging from pipes or chimneys, and courtly figures.
Mike, are there a lot of nude ladies in space?
I haven't gotten to that part yet, so
But
He's furiously flipping through the virtual version.
click.
so let me just ask you though, in space,
Yeah.
as a fan of science, a lot of naked chicks up there?
Well, I mean, everyone's naked under their clothes.
Well,
so
sure.
And we are in space, just on a planet.
Man,
Sounds like some of those archival Strange Tales books that I was looking at.
But
Yeah.
as far as cosmological nude figures, no, there's not many.
well, that sucks.
Maybe the James West Space Telescope will find us some, but none so far.
We found
Finds a galactic hot spring.
Yeah.
We found an entire section of space that's just packed to the brim with naked women.
Just, nude beach goddesses out there. Imagine how much money the space program would get.
Oh my
Found
God.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, God, it was like 10-year-olds. Congress would be there in a heartbeat.
Oh.
Oh,
Yep. I just got us killed.
Sorry, we gotta
We're going to get Arkansas-ed.
Arkansas. That's the term I was looking for.
Yep.
well, all right. So, number 3, a biological section containing a myriad of drawings of miniature female nudes, most with swelled abdomens, immersed or wading in fluids and oddly interacting with interconnecting tubes and capsules.
That new Disney water park is coming along real good.
4, an elaborate array of 9 cosmological medallions, many drawn across several folded folios and depicting possible geographical forms. 5, pharmaceutical drawings of over 100 different species of medicinal herbs and roots, portrayed with jars or vessels in red, blue, or green. And 6, continuous pages of text, possibly recipes, with star-like flowers marking each entry in the margins.
A lot of drawings in this thing matches up with the idea of medieval illuminated books where monks would doodle in the margins, and that's cool, but I am going to admit to being a little bit sad at the lack of battle snails.
Yeah, manuscript snails are absolutely fantastic, and I advise every listener to Google them right now because it's going to make your day.
Yeah, seriously. That and the amount of farts in most medieval manuscripts is truly staggering.
Yeah, more farts in those manuscripts than a letter from James Joyce to his wife.
Oh, man. Nice.
I know just enough
That boy
to know
loved his
that's
farts.
I know just enough to know that's a deep cut.
Okay, so end quote there. So far we have a somewhat kinky book made up of made up languages, or a made up language referred to as Voynichese, featuring what seem to be alien plants, unusual interpretations of astrological and astronomical illustrations, a pharmacy guide, and what might be a cookbook.
Which, that's friggin' awesome. I mean, I just really hope it's, good food,
Right. So again, I want to emphasize that this is a very real thing you can look at and presumably touch in a library archive. You can get your fill of nude BBWs and funky tubes and tubs and look at some potentially made-up plants at Yale University.
Keywords on Pornhub, I'm sure.
She not just thick, she Voynich thick.
Okay, that's a new like Cardi B song or something, right?
I would be amazed if that was a thing.
Voynich thick, yeah.
Voynich thick. Okay, so part of this weirdness is that, like in the text itself, the Voynichese, which is indecipherable but paradoxically seems to indicate the elements you would expect to see in a legitimate printed form of language.
Okay, now I'm just going to throw this in there, and Mike, you know what I'm talking about here. What if this is like twin speak, like in Nell? Where, like, if you could read it, it just says, "Oh, you bought your old chickapee." I'm sorry. I love Nell, and I always think about twin speak when it's indecipherable stuff. I'm sorry.
So the thing is, there are periodic Latin words, but who knows what they are? Nobody does.
Fair.
Okay. The Voynich is a script that's written from left to right, and most characters tend to be written in 1 to 2 strokes. The study of the characters has shown at least 20 to 25 distinct characters, though there could be more, but the handwriting sometimes makes these characters overly identical or hard to discern.
Oh, great. So it's going to turn out this whole thing is just in German or something. The guy had poor penmanship.
There is a German signature in there at some point as well, but it seems to have come in much, much later in the existence of the book. Now, here's one of the issues. There is no apparent punctuation in the written portion.
Oh, it's like E.E. Cummings.
Now, was that Cummings or Goings?
That is terrible is what that is. You, sir, need a timeout.
Nope, got to read the episode. So
okay.
Yeah.
Now, yes, Mike.
Just say I'm looking at a thick section of text, and so I'm seeing like 3 what look like words that are exactly the same words repeated. Like, so there's like 3 of one word, and then the next word that looks like it's repeated thrice. I mean, they're almost, well, okay, that one doesn't have a little thing, but those 2 definitely have things. You can't see what I'm...
No, but...
but yeah, no, there seems to be a lot of repetition of
But,
words.
depending on written language, there is like a lot of repetition in certain letter forms as well.
And it could just be him talking about the naked ladies going, they're hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, but this would be hot, 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 there. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Your guess is as good as everybody else's, because everybody else who's tried this thing has not fucking figured it out.
It's true.
I mean, okay, so there are naked ladies on this page.
See?
Paradox.
I wasn't lying to you. There was nudity.
and they're not hot, though, is the problem.
Yeah, well, they were to him because he drew them.
So there's a naked lady under like an umbrella of water. There's a naked lady holding a vagina plant. There's a naked lady standing on a wave.
Okay.
And there's a naked lady falling into a cone wave.
Well, we did say it's a lot of women in fluids.
Tubes and tubs.
Tubes and tubs.
He liked his ladies kind of thick, too.
Well, he said Voynich thick.
1 inch thick.
But with like weirdly lumpy arms.
Oh, we're going to talk more about the nude ladies. Don't worry, my friend.
Oh, yes.
Don't worry, my friend. We'll come back to this.
Now, regarding like the characters, the fact that they take up about 2 strokes, which is about average for a character in someone's handwriting, that there's probably 20 to 26 characters and that sort of thing. There's probably one question on your mind after hearing all of this about the script. Could this be a cipher? What do you think?
Yeah, kind of maybe. I've got a theory, but we'll get to my theory later.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, really looking at it, seeing how much stuff is repeated, like I'm not talking about like letters. I'm talking about what looks like full words. I mean, it really just looks like when I used to have to like write things as punishment. It's just like repeated over and over. Like,
well, that's a new theory.
Yeah.
Well, and then, I am not good at cursive. I'll just straight up say that. Like when I do a signature, I literally have like a weird loop and then just like some little jagged lines.
Yeah. Same.
And a lot of the writing feels like that, where it's like for someone who knows their own letters and handwriting, it would be decipherable to them. But to me, it makes no sense.
Right.
Also, all the words seem to be, well, okay, there are some 3-letter words, but they all seem to be like 5 or 6, depending. I don't know. There's this thing that looks like kind of like 2 P's back to back. It's like a H, but with loops at the top, I guess. Seems to come up a lot, like a lot. Like pretty much every, like 2 out of 5 words has that letter in it.
Well, and if we're gonna go like deep into this, it could be that like maybe this language, if it is a language, has fewer vowels, and they just repeat the vowels, and the context changes based on the consonants around the vowels.
Yeah, but I don't know
So
if that double letter is at one letter or two letters, but they all seem to be about 5 or 6 letters long. There's no like really long words and very few really short. In fact, all the short words seem to be at the end of a row, not a sentence, but like if you look at one row, it'll be big word, big word, big word, big word, and like has to fill out the end of the row, so it's like a 3-letter word.
It's literally justified text.
Yeah, it's justified by putting in shorter words. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, there are some in the middle, but I see a lot of lines that have just...
You can see why it's so bizarre and everybody's so interested in it, though. It's just weird.
If you found meaning in it, it would be, heck, this would be like...
Right.
This would make you, if you're a...
If you actually deciphered this shit.
If you, in whatever, any discipline, like either, studying books themselves or, codes or whatever, if you were able to decipher this, that would just, or language, if you were a language person.
Or a cryptographer.
Yeah. This would make your career.
And if I'm not mistaken, we're going to talk about people's careers with this, correct?
Yeah. Teaser for later. Like, it gets crazy how many people, and there's some pretty big names attached to this as well. Some very foundational people in the world of cryptograms and cryptography and that sort of thing.
You're right.
So, doesn't surprise me.
Now, I'm just going to say one thing about the ladies' drawings before we actually move on. And I apologize for interrupting. I just want to say that all the drawings of ladies, when you do look at them, it looks like your octogenarian grandfather was horny. And he had no drawing talent.
The only woman he knew was his wife. So it's just grandma.
Just all the grandma in bathtubs.
So
he looked at the nursing home shower.
Oh, you owe me rum for that, my friend.
All right. So, the question, could this be a cipher? The evidence suggests probably not. Again, this is going nips. No. Right. Again, this is going nips deep into a field I have no experience with. Still, based on the evidence from the experts, there are no signs of errors or corrections within the writing, nor are there any unusual spacings present that indicate the act of enciphering.
David?
Have you ever done a cipher? Yes, Kevin.
Please don't say nips.
You know what? This is my vengeance for pee-pee from last time.
Okay, that's fair. The pee-pee and the down there. Okay.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, like, have you ever tried to do a cipher? Like, handwrite one?
Yeah, I've fucked them up real bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, have you?
A bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so the signs of like an active cipher going on just do not seem to be present in the construction of the text. Like all the letter forms seem pretty close. There's not a lot of areas where there's like a sign of correction or anything like that. So there is Latin in the text, but I don't really see much significance in its inclusion. I'd advise looking this up yourself, but I think those are probably additions made over time as opposed to the original author's intent, whoever they are. But again, it's nearly impossible to tell because you can only backdate some of these things for so far.
Right.
Now, we'll get into theories about the text and deciphering it soon, but I want to talk about the illustrations a little bit. So this is where we're going to get more about the naked ladies.
Okay, yeah, let's please dive into that, no pun intended, with the pools and stuff.
So the illustrations are essential to our very little understanding of the book because, again, we can't read the thing. Mm-hmm. The images seem to, for lack of a better term, bookmark the different sections, which is how we arrived at those 6 divisions.
Right.
Yeah, because otherwise it'd just be,
crazy all the way down.
You can tell that there's the plant section because it has plants, and there's a naked ladies section because it has naked ladies.
And the stars with naked ladies.
Well, I'm in a section that just has naked ladies and baths. No stars, just baths.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
So, I did outline the 6 sections. I want to go into a little more depth here, but I'm going to be pulling from a German archival website regarding the illustrations here called the VIB, or the Voynich Information Browser.
Wow.
Yeah, like there's so many websites about this thing.
I can imagine.
Now, the herbal section is dubbed as such because there are 112 folios that display 1 or 2 plants per page and feature text that we can assume is likely about the plants.
So that's what I noticed, is that it's like almost half about plants in the beginning, only about the plants themselves. And then there's more about like so it looks like medicinal uses of the plants, but just the beginning. It's of 212 pages, a good almost half is just plant pictures.
Plants.
Right. And again, we generally do not recognize these plants, nor can we read the descriptions if that is indeed what is written on each page. The best theory we have is that they are like contemporaneous herbals of the time, akin to what Nostradamus may have used in his journeys around Italy. If we recall our exploration of Nostradamus.
Yes, him wandering around as a hedge doctor.
So for more information about that, listen to our Nostradamus duology released a few months ago.
I predict that they will.
Ho ho ho.
Yes, indeed. That's terrible. I apologize.
Now, the second section comprises 21 folios and features circular illustrations with astronomical and astrological symbols referred to as the astronomical section. Some of these are identifiable, but some of these seem a little off.
You know, this is really kind of starting to sound like if I wrote a book about stuff I didn't know a goddamn thing about.
So regarding some depictions of the zodiacal constellations, each image is accompanied by around 30 mostly nude females holding up what appear to be some kind of labels.
God damn it. It's like the chicks that come on between rounds in a fight.
So, these labels could signify stars or other cosmic bodies. Additionally, some of these diagrams are foldouts.
Yep, like in Playboy.
Exactly. Now, the third section, which is perhaps the strangest, is the balneological section. All right, and this is a new word for me.
Yeah.
Which seems to be comprised of 20 folios. Do you gentlemen know what balneotherapy is?
Has this got to do with hay bales?
No. What do you think, Mike?
No idea.
All right. Well, balneotherapy is the treatment of diseases and conditions through bathing.
So
think mineral waters and therapy spas.
So that's the section I'm in currently looking
Yes.
at.
Yes.
Can I describe? I want to paint a word picture of the page I'm looking at.
Oh, please, by all means.
there's
This is going to be great.
There's text all over it, but at the very top, there looks to be 2 pine cones in either opposing corner.
Okay.
That are producing water going through segmented pipes down to a pool that has 7 naked ladies in it.
Uh-huh.
So that the water is filling that pool. And then the water from that pool is draining down into another pool full of 8 naked ladies. So...
Well, it goes from locations of low concentration to high concentration.
So these pine cones are watering 7 naked ladies, which are in turn watering 8 naked ladies.
Okay.
So I feel bad for these 8 gals because they're having to, stew in these other 7's broth.
God, this is the weirdest bone broth I've ever heard of.
You know what it reminds me of? All right, so we're all familiar with Dr. Seuss and his fantastical contraptions.
Yes.
But he was also very, very horny.
Yes. Oh, his horny women, his horny naked lady book.
Yeah, so this sounds like Dr. Seuss just did another secret book or something.
Yeah. In his old age.
If anyone's curious, it's page 141 or image 141 in the digital collection.
There will be a link in the article.
I keep hearing Mike right clicking and muttering "save as," so I'm interested in this.
Mike, what page was that again? 140 what?
141.
140. I don't have a 141. What the hell?
Go to the little...
probably on the PDF browser of it or
right,
something.
right. Okay,
my
bad.
That little thing you could type in 141.
41.
See how accurate my description was.
It is definitely chunks of... Those are colanders.
They look like pine cones to me.
No, the pine cones are pissing into colanders.
Well, yeah, they look kind of, described them as segmented pipes. Colanders don't have, they're very cylindrical. Colanders aren't cylindrical.
Do you think this guy was like Nostradamus and just predicted Esther Williams movies?
Maybe.
Maybe it was bathwater, like, gamer girl bathwater.
Oh, yeah, it's Belle Delphine.
And he does have labels next to him, like...
E-celeb bathwater of the 15th century.
No, one pool says hot chicks, the other one says more hot chicks.
Yeah, maybe this was like, just a horny, like, teenager.
I don't know.
Right?
That, like, saw
this is a lot for a
some
teenager.
grandmas.
No, if this is a horny teenager, he would not have had time to write this because of masturbating.
Well, no, he's writing the stuff because, he has to have some justification for the naked grandmas.
Oh, he did this. He
wrote
it.
It's like... Sorry. It's like Playboy, you read it for the articles.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying he drew and then he wrote in the post-nut clarity.
So, this section has the largest concentration of nude women illustrations, depicting them in all manner of pools or tubs connected by pipes, and the water seems to flow from one page to the next. If you take a look, it seems like the water is literally moving from one page to the next.
Now, look, as artists, you and me, David, you have to admit that is a pretty neat concept for a book, having the water going from page to page, right?
Oh, yeah. I think, I like it. It's cool. Like, it's a little, like, why are they all naked and bathing together? But also, it's like, I don't have an issue with that.
That's true.
So, yes, apparently I already gave away one of my jokes earlier. I had a note here. I was thinking Manuscript Girl bathwater available on Patreon. So,
yeah, but the Manuscript Girl is going to be Mike. So you can get Mike's bathwater.
I just got the two worst words. Mike soup.
There's a lot of
actually, you know what? That might taste good. I don't know.
there's a lot of ladies like standing in water funnels too.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, you ready to move on to the next section?
Let's move away from the naked ladies. Mike, I'm sorry. We got to move on or we're never going to finish.
I know.
Okay.
I did.
So the fourth section is the cosmological section, which consists of 13 folios. It seems to be comprised of circular designs like the astronomical portfolio. Still, it's a little more unusual, and at one point has a map depicting abstract cosmological bodies, castles, and maybe even a volcano. I have no idea here. This is a weird one.
It may be Mordor. I'm just saying, it might be Mordor.
It could be. It could be, man. Like, it could be like maybe Elvish script or something. I don't fucking know.
I see the castle kind of thing, and it's also weird because the text is... It's the first page I've seen where the text is not all written, top to bottom. It has, like, text along the left side that's written, up and down, and on the right side, too. So it's basically a box of text, like, text runs up one side, across the top, down the other side, upside down across the bottom.
Well,
you could tell it's upside down because that little loopy H thing has the loops on the bottom instead of the top.
And also, like,
it's page 157, if you're curious.
Well, I'm looking at 156, and he's got text going in a circle around stuff. This is really interesting.
It's a very... Oh, yeah, he has a circle where it's the same way, where it's up and down and left to right and upside down.
Yeah. This book, like, the further you get into it, it's like this onion of insanity.
Maybe this was like the 14/1500s version of Dead Leaves.
Could be.
I've always meant to try to read that, but I need to buy a copy first.
It's Marble Hornets. No. Yeah.
So the fifth section, known as the pharmaceutical, comprises 34 folios and looks to be depictions of the types of medicinal drawings of the time, including depictions of apothecary jars. It also has some of the more recognizable plant life in the text.
Right.
Again, pretty straightforward. Now, the final section is known as the recipes, more or less, or sometimes the stars section, and has 22 folios of short, broken up text and drawings of stars and flowers in the margin.
I'm willing to wager this is where the Colonel got the 11 herbs and spices.
More than likely.
He just got it out of a dark tome.
Yep. That's the best way to get all your fast food stuff. That's where Dave Thomas got the square patties from. Actually, is he read them he read about it in the Necronomicon.
It should have been non-Euclidean patties then.
Well, if you fall down onto a Wendy's hamburger, you disappear into another dimension.
I was able to do a non-Euclidean geometry joke. I appreciate that. Okay.
The angles on this hamburger are all wrong.
Right. So the question is, like, what is all this for? Again, many theories about what the shit this thing is comes down to herbal and biological sections. With the additions of the healing bath sections, which we assume that's what they are, we can reasonably assume it's a pharmacopoeia regarding early medicine, but the inconsistencies within raise so many questions. So I don't know. Do you gentlemen have an idea, like a theory about what this thing could have been used for before we move on?
I've got two, but I am definitely saving them for the end.
Okay.
But I mean, that's a good guess about the pharmacopoeia.
Yeah, because we know that there are a lot of doctors traveling around constructing things like that.
So in that sense, I mean, so you said it has nothing that disproves it being some form of language, right?
Yeah, so far.
Right.
So it could be like a hedge doctor's like book that he, wrote to keep his, his stuff down, but he wrote in a way that precluded other people from stealing it.
And I'm going to talk about that because I have a theory about all this that I'm going to share, but you're very close to what I'm going for.
Same here.
So I think what we'll do is we'll kind of talk about like the trail of ownership of this text and into the recent developments regarding it.
Right.
So one of my favorite things about researching this fucking book is that it can basically drive people nuts and derail their careers.
I bet.
It's like the fucking Necronomicon in that way.
Roll for sanity and take 1d100 sanity points if you fail. That's a Call of Cthulhu RPG reference for those that don't know.
So I'm gonna quote a segment from an article about the manuscript posted on undark.org.
Can I just say that may be the best URL I've ever heard?
It looks to be a pretty fun site. So physicist Andreas Schinner recounted a rumor that the Voynich Manuscript can be, quote, pure poison, unquote, for a scholarly career, because when studying the manuscript, there's always, quote, an easy option to make a ridiculous mistake. The academic world is a jungle. Schinner, who first applied statistical analytics to the manuscript more than a decade ago, wrote in an email, quote, and like in any jungle, it is not recommended to show even potential weakness.
So don't do this fucking book.
Yeah, and we're going to see a little bit of that happen, especially recently.
Yeah.
So the book is identifiably European due to characteristics in its design and techniques, but for the most part, its early history is unknown. I'm going to convey a little bit about the history of the book, and up front, I need to admit that a lot of this is derived from translations of letters, at least regarding the earliest history of the book. Now, Renee Zandbergen's website, thevoynich.nu, has been invaluable here because he has translations of these letters.
And this is a guy that is not a historian, but is a scientist.
He's basically like a rocket scientist. Basically, he has a PhD in like orbital analytics or something like that. But he, nerds, they get these like wild hairs and like follow these rabbit trails and that sort of thing.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. No idea. No.
Yeah, I know. It's
never
not like we've
gotten
done 50
interested
episodes of this.
Yeah, I've never gotten interested in something and started a fucking podcast about it.
So you could say this just kind of piqued his interest, so it's his hobby.
Yeah. But the fact that he is referenced in many other articles, because as I was going through and finding articles about this, he's been referenced a few times because, again, he's done a lot of interesting archival work regarding this. So the first record of ownership we have was George Berish, a 17th century alchemist from Prague.
Okay.
Now, the book sat on his shelf for years and was a curiosity to him. Now, in a letter to Jesuit scholar Athanasius Kircher,
that's a hell of a name.
Right. Some of these names just drive me nuts, man.
Athanasius.
Like, am I pronouncing that right? It looks
like Athanasius to me.
Yeah. So,
I'm expecting
Jesuit
some
scholar
hipster to name their kid Athanasius.
Oh, that's happening.
So he writes a letter to this Jesuit scholar, and and then Berish describes the text as being a, quote, sphinx, and reached out to Kircher specifically because the Collegio Romano published an Egyptian dictionary, and Kircher worked there.
Okay.
Now, do note that this dictionary would have been wholly inaccurate, as this predated the discovery of the Rosetta Stone.
God damn, this sounds like Joseph Smith doing the same thing, saying when they found some tablets, they said, well, this is in corrupted Egyptian, and I can translate it. Then, 5 years later, they found the Rosetta Stone.
Yeah, because there's been all these different periods where, it's like someone has, a new dictionary of Egyptian. It's like, well, no, you don't. You don't. Not until the Rosetta Stone.
Yes.
But, Berish also assumed the book had an Egyptian or, quote, Oriental origin, given his usage of the word sphinx here. So this is the earliest record we have of actual discussion regarding the manuscript, where we have a written discussion about the nature of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, I seem to remember for a long time people talking about it was a recent hoax, as in possibly in the 1920s or 30s. So it's just good to have some background here going further back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know that this thing has been around at least until the 17th century. That put it at 1600s.
Yes, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm just glad.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to not have a Shroud of Turin situation, is all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. So the book would have been 100 to 150 years old for this guy at the time.
Right.
So Kircher wanted this book, but Berish refused to give it up. On his death, though, Berish's book was passed to his friend Jan Marek Marcy, a rector at Charles University in Prague. Later, Marcy would send the book to Kircher, who was a friend of Marcy.
Now, can I just say, rector damn near killed her.
Thanks, Kissel.
God damn it.
So we have we have a wrinkle here, one of many that's going to pop up. When Marcy sent the book, it also included a cover letter in Latin dated to 1665 or 1666. It's hard to tell. So I'm going to turn to a write-up from the blog Medieval Musings from David Jackson. Now, the first half of the letter just conveys the history of exchange between these three men, but the second half has an interesting development regarding the chain of ownership. I'm going to quote directly from David Jackson's translation. Quote, Dr. Raphael, the Czech language tutor of King Ferdinand III, as they both then were, once told me that the said book belonged to Emperor Rudolph, and that he had presented 600 ducats to the messenger who brought him the book. He, Raphael, thought that the author was Roger Bacon the Englishman. I suspend my judgment on that matter. You be the judge of what you think about it. I commend myself to your favor, etc., etc.
Why is everything Bacon?
Right. There's some big names dropped in there. This apparently. So this is interesting, but more contemporary views discredit this claim from Jan Marek Marcy, but not before the Voynich of the manuscript's namesake, because there is a person named Voynich who's going to come along.
Right.
He took this claim at face value.
Yes.
That it belonged to King Rudolph.
Yeah. And Bacon wrote it.
Yeah. So the Voynich who's going to come along later, who, spoiler alert, he's really cool. He took this claim at face value.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah.
You want Bacon now, don't you? Because I know I do.
Look, you never have to ask. If you think at 8 a.m. in the morning when I'm still asleep, you think, does Mike want bacon? The
He
answer
wants
is yes.
bacon.
If you woke me up with a plate of bacon, I'd be like, all right, I'm not mad. I'm having bacon.
You gotta bear that in mind now when
That's the strategy.
yeah, when
That's
we
how you
do
do
this road trip.
Bacon.
Bacon.
Okay, so for the next 2 centuries, it is likely that the book was stored in the Collegio Romano until the annexation of the Papal States by Victor Emmanuel II of Italy in 1870. As with worries about any incoming regime, many of the texts were confiscated and whisked away into private collections, which could explain how the manuscript would be found later. So we've got about 200 years of history here. There is the annexation of the Papal States, everything like that. It gets into a private collection. So in 1903, books that had been part of private collections that were still linked to the Collegio Romano were floating around in Rome at the time. Now, many of these books were sold to the Vatican Library to raise some money, and the sale of this manuscript occurred in 1912, but it didn't go to the Vatican.
Interesting. Now, do we know why?
Because it was purchased by a private collector and antique book dealer, Wilfrid Voynich.
Good name.
He would spend 7 years trying to work out this puzzling book, and the book would largely be remembered in his name.
Right.
So I think the Vatican didn't take it because they couldn't tell what the fuck it was.
They didn't want this devil book.
So no, they just didn't know. It's like we can't tell what this is, so we don't want to put it in our secret vault.
Next to the time machine.
Well, we don't want it next to the chronovisor. We don't want Archbishop Zipnak to, read it and get weird ideas because it could be his language.
Oh, Archbishop Zipnak.
Yep.
So we're not going to have time to cover Wilfrid in detail, but he was born on October 31st, 1865, in New York, and was an antiquarian, bibliophile, Polish revolutionary, and my new hero. Like, born on Halloween, Polish revolutionary, antiquarian, bibliophile, that's great.
Yeah, this sounds like a pulp book.
Yeah, I would suggest looking him up. His Wikipedia entry paints a very exciting life. He seems like a very cool guy. Now, I think we should do a Patreon episode about him at some point.
I was just about to say we have got to do a Patreon episode about this guy. This sounds like a lot of fun.
And it's interesting because he has some connections to some other important figures.
If you say Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, a little bit in the sense that he's like connected to all these like weird different studies. So when he died in 1930, his widow, Ethel, author of The Gadfly, and daughter of mathematician George Boole.
Wait, like as in the term Boolean?
Yes.
What the fuck?
She took possession of the manuscript. Now, it changes hands a couple more times, but would ultimately end up at Yale University as a donation in 1969.
69, yeah.
Nice. So, as far as theories go about the text, there have always been accusations of it being a hoax.
Right, as it would.
Right. Still, most dating seems to lend support to this thing being the real deal with periodic additions, but likely originating in the 15th century. So, again, extremely undecipherable, with suggestions ranging from it being a constructed language, or a cipher, or shorthand.
I was thinking that.
Some even posit that the thing is a practical joke or the creation of a madman.
I don't... okay, I was about to say I don't know that a madman would have the sort of gumption to write this whole thing, and I realized, yeah, they fucking would.
Yeah, right? I would say it's definitely a long way to go for a lame joke.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't joke.
Yeah.
So, still in our final segment here, we're going to talk about how all this shit keeps getting disproven and nobody can solve this fucker. But so far, what do you gentlemen think of our journey so far?
I think it's interesting and mysterious.
I'm staring at these words thinking, maybe I can figure it out. Which
No,
I know
you
I
fool!
can't.
Don't do it.
Exactly.
Don't
I'm
do
like,
it.
It'll
Don't-
ruin me.
Now, on the plus side, you don't have a reputation in academics to ruin, so go for it.
But here's the thing. It's like
Just a private
I
citizen.
think that's the problem. It's so tantalizingly, like you look at it, it's like surely it can't be that hard to figure out. But the centuries of people ruining their lives trying to figure it out proves you otherwise.
It's daunting, isn't it?
It's no, it's not daunting. It's the opposite, actually. I think it's inviting. You're looking at it going, I know this. This should be something that's not too hard to figure out. But
Maybe.
but
that's
like I
part
said,
of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that's why I
It's
think
a spell.
That's why so many people have like looked at this and gone hog wild with it because they're like, surely I can figure this out, but no.
It reminds me of Knives Out, Detective Blank. He's like, it's such a mystery, but it compels me though.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Like the form of the letters looks so familiar.
Right. It's like it's like a memory of a dream.
I guess the thing is, it's like, from that time you're used to like a lot of script, but this is
Right.
very separated letters. They're not.
Yeah.
It's like, is that
And
an
again,
A? That's an X? But
And
it's
if
not.
someone was making this up like on the fly, you would expect to see a lot of inconsistencies, but it's just the level of consistency in all of this is just bizarre.
Yeah.
If I had to hazard a guess, I would say there's probably a lot of like garbage in here. Like some of this probably is just gibberish. Like, and whoever wrote it would know that to ignore those parts for somehow. But some of it's probably real.
One of our listeners, Darth Plato, is really good at doing ciphers. I kind of want to throw the book at him and see if he can figure anything out.
Don't do it. He's going to go insane.
Oh man, he's already crazy. He's got a flag podcast.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of which, you should listen to that. Kevin was on last week.
Absolutely listen to Flagged for Content. It's a fantastic show.
I wonder if anyone's thrown AI at this.
We're gonna get to that.
Are we? Okay, great. Well, let's.
So there are many claims about the text, and I want to convey a few of the more interesting ones. Now, my favorite is the concept of this being a case of glossolalia. Do you guys know what this is?
I can't even
Lost
pronounce
salsa?
that.
So it's glossolalia.
Glossolalia. What is that?
That has, hold on, let me think, based on something to do with
Glossaries?
or language.
It's glazing stuff. It gives it a gloss.
Oh, that's what they do at Krispy Kreme when they
Yes.
send the donuts under the waterfall.
Yeah, that's the glossolalia.
Yeah, the glossolalia machine.
Yes. That's it exactly.
Okay.
We figured that out.
Is that
Perfect.
lost
right.
language?
So you're right about it having involving language. I think gloss something is like Latin for tongue.
Yes.
This might clue you into where we're going with this.
Tongue piercings.
I took a year of Latin and failed it, so makes sense. That
Sounds familiar enough.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, so in
Glossary.
2004, Gary Kennedy and Rob Churchill theorized on their book, The Voynich Manuscript, that the book might be the choreographical equivalent of speaking in tongues, as it has a seemingly stream of conscious quality to it.
So like automatic writing.
And also, credit to them for calling their book The Voynich Manuscript.
Sons of bitches. That's like a great way to get it. I mean, I'm going to look up the Voynich. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's
Well played,
choreographical, not choreographical, choreographical is the process of writing.
Right.
So yeah, when you say automatic writing, it's a lot like that.
Yeah. Which, for those that don't know, automatic writing is when if you've seen the last Indiana Jones movie, it's basically a person is writing and it's not under their control, like they're channeling someone else.
Okay, so I have a less shitty pop culture reference then.
Oh, God damn it.
The movie The Changeling during the seance when
Haven't seen
the
it.
psychic lady. Okay, number one, that's an excellent movie. Everybody needs to watch that movie. But yes,
I was gonna say,
we
you
don't
said-
talk about the last Indiana Jones.
You said less shitty, but it's like, is it really less shitty when no one's seen it?
It's a good movie, unlike the last Indiana Jones movie.
Hey, there's a couple good parts.
I mean, I know the refrigerator really ruined it for me.
It didn't bother me as much as it bothered everyone else. What bothered me was the inclusion of Shia LaBeouf.
Supernatural Selection Movie Edition coming to Patreon.
My eyes rolled so hard at the refrigerator
I get it.
that I could see my brains.
Okay, well let's move on before we get into
Right.
a fight.
So their main support for this claim is referencing structural similarities in the script between the manuscript's letter forms and the work of Hildegard von Bingen, who her work derived from her severe migraines circa the 12th century.
That is a hell of a writing thing.
Right,
Migraines.
and I didn't have too much of a chance to dive into the history of this person, but this was a woman in the 12th century of all centuries who actually did some important writing regarding, I think, religious texts.
Yeah.
Which again, I didn't get a chance to look it up too much, but like I guess part of the thing was that she had such severe migraines that she would do like almost this automatic writing sort of thing.
That's cool.
That's
Now,
weird.
yeah. Right, it is very strange. Now, this theory is ultimately impossible to prove, and the authors themselves are not even sure of its validity, but I would say it is plausible.
Yeah, no, I'm willing to. Sure.
Now, we're going to get to the real fun stuff here.
Oh boy.
Returning to the earlier article from undark.org, two figures to note in this story are William and Elizabeth Friedman, who are arguably the founding figures of modern cipher breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mike, have
so
you heard of
we're
these guys?
familiar with them.
It sounds a little familiar, but I'm not like intimately familiar with.
Okay. I was just curious since this was around World War II. I thought maybe you would have heard of them. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little refresher here. Sure. So this is from an article in The New Yorker titled The Unread, The Mystery of the Voynich Manuscript. Quote, perhaps the greatest cryptologist of the modern age, Friedman led the decipherment of the Japanese Code Purple during the Second World War and helped create the NSA, becoming its first chief cryptologist. Further, quote, in the closing days of the Second World War, William and Elizabeth Friedman gathered a group of experts awaiting demobilization, and together they devoted an enormous amount of time to deciphering the Voynich. But after efforts spanning 3 decades, Friedman declared that the cracking of the manuscript's code was impossible.
Jesus.
So these are the people who cracked ciphers in World War II, and they could not crack the Voynich manuscript.
That's goddamn. I mean,
right?
And all it took was a book written by a guy that may have had a stroke.
Right. Well, and it's amazing because these are all these geniuses who crack all these codes during the Second World War, just sitting around waiting to go home, and they're like, "Oh, we'll take it on as a project," and then boom, 30 years later, no, we give up.
Well, so code breaking relies a lot on, just like with the Rosetta Stone, we could not crack the Egyptian language, written language,
until we had 2 other languages.
Yeah. So and the same thing with the Nazi codes.
Mm-hmm.
You need a Rosetta Stone. You need a common thing, and I can't think of any instances where a code has been broken just through brute force, through no information that led to a clue. I mean, I'm sure in very simple ciphers it's possible.
But what you're saying essentially is, for this, not enough data.
I'm saying that even the best code breakers would need some clue about the code they're working on.
Sure.
I'm like,
I gotcha.
I'm not very intimately familiar with the Japanese purple codes. I don't know if they had a sort of a, piece of information that helped them crack that, but
Right.
Right, and that's why, like, if you ever try to decipher something, like you're given like a cipher for fun, you have to have some sort of key letter or key reference to work
Right.
with.
Like a one-time pad, like with number stations.
yeah.
And my guess is maybe they used some of those Latin words that were found as part of that process, but it just didn't work.
Because
and those-
they may have
those-
been added later.
Those
Sorry,
could
go
be
ahead.
red herrings, yeah, because like you said, they may have been added later. But if they've hyper focused on that, they just could have, or just saw that as the only commonality to work upon. They wouldn't have led to any fruitful, deciphering.
Right.
But there's other things that I feel like would have factored in there as well. So, for example, in the astronomical and astrological sections, if you have these labels next to identifiable
True.
zodiac
Yeah.
signs, maybe that was in the process, but even then, it's just like 30 years and nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that.
Yeah.
But then again, those could be red herrings, or they could be saying something completely different than just their name.
Right.
Yeah, so we can see how frustrating this is going to be for people for decades now.
Oh, absolutely.
So this also brings up an interesting point to all of this. I'm going to be quoting undark.org again.
Okay.
Quote, during World War I, the freedmen's had to perform their calculations by hand, but in the following decades, IBM's punch card tabulating machines made the process much faster.
Yeah.
Working with the National Security Agency when it was formed in the 1950s, William and other codebreakers pursued an interest in the medieval manuscript. There's even a copy of it in the NSA's internal library.
Oh, wow.
Because the manuscript was unclassified, Cold War codebreakers could use it to illustrate cutting-edge computational analysis techniques to their colleagues without using real Soviet messages.
Huh. Interesting.
Which is right, it's just it's kind of like when we talked about Nostradamus and his predictions being used in World War II.
Uh-huh.
And how it led to different developments. It's weird how useful this book became, even though we have no clue what the fuck it's talking about.
Right.
Now, shit is bonkers when even mathematicians become involved.
Oh, yeah. Anytime mathematicians become involved, you're pretty much going into the realm of magic.
Yep. At this point, we are strictly dealing with stuff post-2000.
Okay. Awesome.
So, in 2007, physicist Andreas Schinner felt compelled to explore this thing and, using statistical tools, suggested the text was generated from a stochastic randomization process and not a natural language.
What?
Now, in 2019, Schinner co-authored a paper proposing a potential algorithm for the text that indicates that the text is gibberish.
Look, that's probably true, and I just really don't want it to be.
However, a team of scientists in Brazil and Germany in 2013, which I find Brazil and Germany working together on something to be kind of sus.
I was going to say, man, the only way it'd be worse is if it was Argentina.
But in 2013, they concluded the text was likely written of an actual language by using, again, statistical analysis. Now, in 2016, a computer scientist at the University of Alberta and their grad student utilized machine learning to look at 400 translations of the manuscript. Their proposal is that it is jumbled up Hebrew in a strange script-like form. It's getting crazier, man. It's getting crazier.
Man, you got to the Jews all again.
It always comes back to them. So
I swear we're going to have to... Anyway, go on.
in 2017, Ars Technica had a post that suggested the Voynich Manuscript had been deciphered, but 2 days later published a follow-up that the translation was flawed, and a whole host of experts had pounced at the shoddy translation work.
Goddamn.
Now, in this situation, researcher Nicholas Gibbs, publisher of the original paper that Ars Technica posted about, had proposed that the manuscript was a treatise on women's health, but also based his conclusion on other work that predates his own.
Also, I mean, just drawings of naked ladies all over the damn thing. So
here's a problem I'm hearing with a lot of these is that they're basing it on either previous translations or previous works, where that is just if any of the stuff they're incorporating is wrong, you're just like compounding errors.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, I think anyone studying this would have to,
ignore everything that came before.
exactly, unless there's something they can, like the throwing out the Latin that's inserted in, probably could, go with that. But other than that, any previous thing, it's just, you just can't guarantee any of it's right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing about Nicholas Gibbs. He is also a television screenwriter.
Oh, God damn it.
And my guess is he was working on some sort of History Channel pseudoscience show.
Probably.
Like
Ancient bullshit on history.
if I was going to do something like this, something about this, I would basically take, how many letters do you say there are in this?
25 or 26,
25.
right?
20 to 25.
So, okay, that does, because there are penmanship problems. Is this how it's written? Is this one letter or another letter? But so even at 26 letters, you could one for one substitute, our regular alphabet, and probably set a machine to try to like figure it out. Basically, take each instance of a letter and turn it into one of our regular letters.
Right. Well, it's kind of like how sometimes they'll take like runes, like Viking runes, and like tier for T, for example.
Right. Yeah.
So, but to make it easier for a machine to process, because trying to OCR this, you would get nowhere. But just, and you could even do different data sets. You can do one for like where what you think is the same letter is that, and do it also one for where these are different
But it's
letters.
not. Yeah.
But, and then just have that try to crunch it.
Right.
And at least look for, patterns and, against known languages, known syntax, known, like you said, there's no punctuation, but just try to find any commonalities.
Right.
And I'm no language expert, so that's just my off the cuff, supposition.
Right. And I think you're right on with a lot of this, because it seems to be like what a lot of people are doing as well.
Yeah.
But also like if you have 400 translations, it wouldn't hurt to see like if there are any commonalities between them.
Yeah.
Like if there are recognizable patterns or forms.
One of the ones you mentioned, they said they looked at 400 translations, and the best they came up with was jumbled up Hebrew, to quote you, which I don't know.
Right. So in 2020, a Turkish engineer and his son theorized the script based on their analysis is a phonetic transcription of medieval Turkish.
That sounds a little biased.
Yeah, see, I'm not exactly sure how they arrive at that, because I couldn't recognize the characters for the life of me.
It's Turkish because we're Turkish.
Well, so he's saying they're saying a phonetic translation. So basically it would be made up characters that they're using to, and it's not a bad take, but it does, like you said, Kevin, sounds a little biased.
Yeah.
It just happens to be Turkish, which we're Turkish.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
It's Mississippian, goddammit. The whole thing's written in Mississippian.
But
this right here is about grits.
It's not a bad take that it could be a phonetic pigeon. Well, not pigeon, but
Pigeon.
I'm not pigeon, but pigeon.
Oh,
But pigeon's not the right word I was looking for.
Yeah.
But a phonetic, what am I looking for? Basically, how when they write it out in the dictionary.
right, yeah.
It's a phonetic representation.
I gotcha.
Or like me, when I do my roll sheet for my class, I have to put some of the names phonetically. So it's like, okay, 3 E's to get the long E sound here.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So I mean, it's not a bad take, but
No,
it's a
questionable
wrong take.
questionable.
but I haven't seen a whole lot of support for it, and I've not seen a lot of updates regarding it.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, also in 2020, as noted in the article, has Yale's mysterious Voynich Manuscript finally been deciphered? It seems like there's an article like that every 3 years.
Yeah.
A German Egyptologist named Rainer Hannig suggested that the script is a form of Hebrew. However, this claim has been made before.
All right.
Obviously.
First off, bad form it being a German guy. A German guy identifying Hebrew. I just don't like where that's going. Secondly, can we, as anomalists and researchers, just stop with the Jews for one conspiracy? That's all I'm asking.
I would not discount the Hebrew thing.
You know who said
Right.
it's not Hebrew?
Because
The Hebrews.
well, so the thing is, it was if this was if we're talking about like a hedge doctor or something, what if it was a Jewish hedge doctor that was using a Jewish, using a Hebrew, some form of, cipher.
Maybe.
Right, and then also, with the Jewish people and where they fit in society throughout history, they've always kind of been on the margins in that way, filling in for the jobs that
Nobody else wanted.
Yeah, so like the idea of it
Sounds
coming
familiar.
to so the idea of it coming back to like Hebrew and the Jewish people, it's not that far-fetched, but also like every time someone suggests that it's Hebrew, it's like, well, probably not based on this discovery.
I'm also just tired of it always has to come back to that. I don't know. It's just me.
No, I mean, I understand. Yeah, there's a lot of
I get tired of the anti-Semitism.
There's a lot.
And I know this isn't being anti-Semitic, but goddamn, boys.
But 50 years down the line, maybe it leads to it.
Sure.
Right. So the problem with this discovery in 2020 that I just mentioned, the gentleman Hannig had not finished his translation at the time of the announcement. A couple of weeks later, an Israeli crypto expert named Moshe Rubin published a rebuke expressing skepticism of the theory, and I have an excellent breakdown of Rubin's issues in a post from scienceblogs.de.
Again, you can find that in the document. And David, this kind of stuff must drive you nuts as a teacher.
I do like to see like people like pointing out like, well, no, you didn't do your research, because I can always like point to that as an example of, now, if you don't want to be publicly lambasted, do your research.
Yeah.
Now, as for the most recent developments, the latest that I have is an article published in August of last year, positing the usage of statistics to crack the manuscript. A road we just went down a few minutes ago. Again, nothing really new about that.
Right.
Yeah.
They're using the same techniques for the most part over and over.
Well, no, just so it's kind of what we discussed, like, trying to statistically.
No, I got
Match
you.
it.
I understand.
Like the frequency
How many
of
times
letters
does this
and-
letter turn up?
Yeah.
I got you.
So we've kind of arrived to the end of our journey with the history and the theories and that sort of thing. But like, again, I just want to, what do you guys think this thing is?
All right, Mike.
Because I have my theory.
Do you mind if I go with mine
ahead.
real quick?
Yeah.
All right, so this really kind of feels like, on some level, a weird version of Henry Darger, who wrote a 15,000-page fantasy book while he was working as a hospital custodian. But it wasn't published until somebody discovered it in his apartment after he died. Now imagine that, but with Tolkien's flair for languages. Also, you can read more about Henry Darger. I've included a link in the document. But, I mean, this technically could be a source book for an RPG.
Too many plants.
Alternately,
Be a botanist RPG.
Alternately, this could be like aphasia, but in a written form. You're familiar with aphasia? Where you know what you're saying, but your mouth will not put those words out.
Bruce Willis.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
it's like you're trying to say, hello, my name is Kevin, but what comes out is potato hamdinger, blah, 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 blah.
Now, I do want to go back to the idea of a botanist RPG, because from what I've heard, that really grows on you.
Oh.
So
Roll for damage on that one.
I don't know.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
So I think it's too structured, I guess.
For aphasia?
Yeah, like why, if it's aphasia, why all the plant drawings?
Sure,
Why,
I know, but I mean,
why the sections?
that's why I was saying
Why the-
alternately.
Why the numbering of pages?
Well, like, it made sense. Well, the thing is, he thought he was writing
but
his language, but, you know. But no, that's actually not really my theory. I'm just throwing that out there as an option.
It is interesting, though.
Yeah, my theory is it's sort of like, I don't know. I've got a better theory, but we'll talk about it later, because it kind of folds into David's, I think.
Okay,
Mike?
Mike.
I'm going to stick by my hedge doctor, writing his stuff down, but hiding it from his competitors.
Okay, and I think that's a good place for me to kind of like jump in and give you my theory.
Yeah.
Please do.
So, obviously, I am not an expert here, but based on the research done for this episode and a certain previous series we've done, I have a little thought experiment here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I do believe that this was a pharmacological text.
Right.
As I was reading up on this topic, I was continually reminded of our Nostradamus series, specifically his phase as a wanderer out of medical school, creating notes and studying plants and creating medications.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Now, his wanderings coincided with a few outbreaks of the Black Death, and we also know that the social status of doctors was mixed at best, and anti-Semitism was an issue at the time. We also knew that some medical knowledge would have been considered heretical due to various instances of inquisitorial arrest, and after seeing some of Nostradamus' own brushes with the church for thought crime.
Right.
So I don't think this is the writing of Nostradamus. I'm going to state that.
Thank God.
Okay, that's not where I'm going with this.
We don't need a grand unification theory of Nostradamus.
That would be fantastic. But no, still.
But it is the Count Saint Germain.
Oh, God.
So still, his lifestyle was not unique, and I would posit that the Voynich Manuscript could potentially be the shorthand notes of a doctor wanting to conduct important research, but also maintain a level of privacy and a layer of safety from the authorities.
Right.
So I find it funny that we basically came to the same conclusion.
I think it's funny all three of us kind of have something similar, so...
And, I think this would be the case because, as we learned in our episodes about Nostradamus, astrology was also part of medical thinking at the time. And the manuscript is full of, astronomical references, and even some of the treatments for the Black Plague, if I recall correctly, involved bathing, which would explain why there's an entire section on bathing.
Well, bathing, but so a interesting kind of, Middle East connection, whereas the Europeans were very
Filthy?
against bathing. The people of the Arab nations were very much pro bathing. Which, could be an interesting connection with, there was the Turkey connection, which I don't quite see, but along with the Hebrew connection, maybe,
Sure,
something
okay.
there.
Yeah, you could literally have this guy who is wandering the world, really putting in the study here. But I also think, a cipher could be at play, maybe. I
There's
also think
definitely
that
something.
madness or drug use is not off the table. To study these things like plants, a physician at the time would have had to have served as an apothecary, and maybe he poisoned himself or potentially tripped out on what he was working on.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
So I think this is a really good track. I like this theory. I want to throw this in there, though. What if we're looking at a lost language of the alchemists? Something with a translation handed down orally for generations that was eventually lost and now we'll never know or be able to translate it.
Well, then that could tie into phonetic
Exactly.
transcription.
Right. And that's why we haven't translated it, because it's a language we don't know, because it's passed down like just from, like the Secret Order of Alchemists or something along those lines.
So, I mean, that's it for the Voynich Manuscript so far.
You know what? I think we just solved it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we haven't translated it, but
we solved it.
Everything.
Yeah, we figured it out, the origins completely. We know exactly where
honestly,
it came from. Pay us.
Like, honestly, like, it looks like all these clues that we've kind of pulled together here from all these different sources. I doubt that this is a new theory, that it was obviously, like, it being a pharmacological text is not a new theory.
No,
yeah,
but
that's pretty on the nose.
But our exploration of it, I feel, is pretty novel in that regard.
We've got such a broad range of knowledge about various things that I think maybe they're not as open to other ideas as they should be.
I would think a bunch of codebreaker nerds probably would have been hyper-focused on just one aspect of it.
Yeah.
Maybe the...
pattern recognition.
The pattern recognition,
exactly.
They've been doing it for, several years now, so they think they know what they're doing, so they're applying the same... statistical models to it and just coming up with nothing because, human language is pretty shitty.
Yeah, I mean, look at English.
Funny. But also for me, it was the Nostradamus thing, because it's weird how it kind of came back to Nostradamus for me, but so many parallels here.
Well, for what it's worth, once you mentioned it, I saw it. I was like, and honestly, it makes the most sense out of any theory we've heard.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I don't know. That's where we stand on the Voynich Manuscript so far.
That's our.
I have one closing thought on it, though.
What's that?
Well, in times of dire need, it could serve as this dude's spank bank.
Oh, with those
it gets
drawings,
really lonely on the road.
You just don't know. I'm sitting here. I drill my own titties. It's so bad.
But I'm going to spank it anyway.
I'm glad we ended on something vulgar. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
only way to end it.
We got some questions, and then we're going to go with some wrap-up stuff I wanted to talk about. So let's go with questions, boys.
All right.
First, Sam asked us, what are y'all's opinions on books of power? I frankly don't know any better way to put it than that, and I'm just going to assume you know what I mean.
Kevin?
Also, what's every host's favorite book?
Okay, Kevin, can you enlighten me?
I have no idea what the books of power are unless Sam means grimoire.
I would think like the Book of the Law by Aleister Crowley might be you'd consider it a book of power?
Or the Book of Enoch?
Or the
Lower Keys of Solomon?
Yes.
I really don't know.
My opinion on the books of power, if that's what you're talking about, is it's all made up and the points don't matter.
I'm going to have a more interesting answer here, I think, regarding that.
Okay.
I do believe that written word does carry a magical energy to a degree.
Okay.
I again, writing reality. I do want to point out that I am going to be writing a series of episodes about comic books as magical spells. I'll let you know that right now.
And I kind of feel like I want to do one about chaos magic, having attempted it. And I don't recommend it.
No, too much masturbating over sigils.
Let's not go into that.
Until the episode.
Yeah, we'll go. Well, also, you can actually do it by sneezing or farting. And I will tell you,
I farted to a candle.
I farted on a lot of paper.
He did not. He has never eaten so many beans in his life.
It's
God,
not even.
Dude, why does your library smell so bad?
I fart on the paper to make the spells work. No, we'll talk about it when we get there. But the other part of that question is, what's everybody's favorite book?
Like single book or
like even out of a series.
I have an answer.
Okay, what's yours?
Michael Chabon wrote a book called The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, and that book is just like right up my fucking alley. It's a beautiful, beautiful novel about a couple of Jewish kids making superhero comics during the golden age of comics.
So it's kind of like the Superman story.
Right, but it's not so much a super-powered character, but it's about an escape artist. It has stuff like about Harry Houdini and escapism, and it is wonderful.
And what's this book called again?
The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay.
Okay, I'm gonna get you to like send me a link to where I can read that or buy it.
Oh hell yeah! I love to spread the gospel out. They even did a comic book miniseries.
Oh, that's cool. Based on the comic.
Based on it's set in the same continuity of the people who created the comic book character, but this is like decades later in the 2000s when someone's trying to revive the character based on the comic that they read as a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so good. So good.
Mine, I'm going to say Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World, the first book of the
Can't take mine.
Motherfucker, you knew it was going to be that.
Well, what'd you think mine was going to be?
The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, the first book of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're both kind of...
But Kevin.
You read it first.
I read it first.
You read it first.
It was mine first.
God damn it. Don't act like
Way to be a hipster about it, Jesus.
Don't act like I stole your woman.
You did. Well, you didn't steal, but, we're sharing.
Like Rand.
Yeah.
The book is Rand and we're his bitches.
I mean, I was basically, the age of the characters, and so were you, and it just kind of resonated, and
I'm gonna say, actually, you know what? I'm gonna say it's either that or The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
You can't do two, because then I have to do another one.
It's one or the other. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
But I would definitely say Eye of the World is higher for me.
I've read The Hitchhiker's Guide too much, and I'm gonna go with The Eye of the World, though. Yeah.
Supernatural Selection Book Club coming at you.
Yeah.
In your face.
All right, and our last question is from Ghost Forge. Do you think the ubiquitousness of concepts like the golden rule or karma across global cultures is indicative of meddling by non-humans to make us less feral?
This kind of fits in with the topic we had the week before last, the
Anunnaki?
Sky Gods or whatever.
Yeah, the Anunnaki basically imposing morality on us.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like it's like an ingrained thing on some level that you're just supposed to be good to people. On some level, like of your tribe, at any rate.
Yeah,
we're a tribal animal.
Yeah, I mean, I think in small enough groups, the
golden rule applies.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's just mutually beneficial. Like,
right.
Yes.
Obviously, it benefits you when they do it to you.
Yeah,
and it benefits you because in the long run, they're going to be favorable towards you.
Right. Altruism is something that like an intelligent species ends up developing. I'm watching a documentary about like the origins of the human species, and they have like CGI ape people, and it's like, one of them bringing home food and handing it to like a weaker, sicker one and that sort of thing. It's just because you want someone to take care of you when you need it, you end up doing that. And that altruism is something that just is natural.
Yeah. And part of it is showing others how you want to be treated as an individual and hoping that it catches on some level. But also I think altruism is kind of a lie, because even if you're doing it for, quote, altruistic reasons, it makes you feel better. So
there is that dopamine hit, yeah.
There is still gain from doing good.
Thank you, friends.
But doing something good and it making you feel
Mike's
good.
Like, thank you for ruining altruism.
No, I'm saying thank you because they address that topic in the hit comedy sitcom Friends.
Oh. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
No, but even then, like, even if you gain something, like, I feel like altruism is altruism because the main motivation is to do something nice for someone else.
Yeah.
Like, is the benefit to you floating in the back of your mind? Most likely. We all think of like, we're all selfish to a degree.
Yes.
Like we all think about how is this going to affect me, but it's the weighing of the two things, how it's going to affect you and how it's going to affect other people. And if you choose the other people as the main motivator, I think that's where the altruism lies.
I agree.
In the spirit of the question, though, I certainly hope so. That like, you know, like aliens gave us morals or something. That'd be cool. Like the
I
Greater
hope
just like
something gave us morals.
you know, on the one hand, they're coring out cow assholes, but on the other hand, like, don't be dicks to each other.
Actually,
Be excellent to each other and give me that cow butt.
I hope the other way. I hope it's just something like ingrained in us, in
Yeah.
our genetics.
Well, still, do
way
you
it's
think that
just-
was programmed in by the
Sky
Ashtar-
gods?
Ashtari High Command?
No. I think it's, if you look at a lot of social animals, they have such, you know,
Like chimps.
chimps or, you know, even lions, things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
They'll compete for some,
They compete
Mostly-
for resources, but they share it in their group.
not only resources, mostly the competition seems to be, you know, in mating, which makes sense in a Darwinist,
Zug.
you know, sense that, you know, being the first and the most prolific to pass on your genes, but having a strong knit social group just, you know, benefits everybody.
Benefits
in the
all.
group.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Well, I hope it's not the Sky Gods,
But, you know,
but I don't think it's to make us less feral. I kind of feel like the feral thing comes from being part of a larger and larger world, and we're still not mentally adapted to be a global species.
we are
We're tribal.
the least feral we could be right now, and there's still selfish, you know, thought. I mean, look at the American government.
You know, this
The leaders of the American government.
this reminds me of something. Speaking of humanity acting like this, I was watching a video on Trek culture on YouTube, and they were talking about one of the fan theories is that the real world that we live in is actually the mirror universe in Star Trek. We're the bad guys.
that unfortunately makes a lot of sense.
Doesn't it, though? Yeah.
Well,
Kind
I
of-
mean,
Terran Empire.
yeah.
it could go either way. I mean, we were still kind of early enough that, you know, we haven't hit that what would you call it? Not turning point, but that
Point of no return?
there's a flashpoint,
Divergence point.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know, man.
where
You know, once World War III starts, we'll have to start figuring out shit real quick.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey, how did you guys do during the eugenics war, by the way?
Oh, when was that?
1996.
I was in high school, I just graduated.
Yeah, I was at Rose's, so I was doing pretty bad.
Yeah,
I got a Super Nintendo that year, so all things
dude.
considered, it was pretty good.
That's pretty bitchin'. Not gonna lie, that's pretty bitchin'.
Yep.
So, well, thank you for the questions, guys, as always. If you're out there listening, don't forget you can join us on our Discord by going to supernatpod.rocks and click the link at the top that says Discord. We would love to have you, and you can come hang out with Ghost Forge and Sam and Darth Plato and Kick-Assatron and us and tons of other people, and you can ask us questions every week. Now, before we go on, we would like to invite you to rate and review our podcast on whatever your podcatcher of choice is, if possible. I know mostly it's Apple Podcasts.
yeah. I was gonna say, I think Apple's the only one where you can
Yeah,
really rate.
so if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review and a rating. 5 stars, please.
Well, I would say be honest.
Be honest, yes.
You know, if you think there's stuff we could improve on,
Yeah.
please do.
And if you write a review, we will read your review at the top of the episode after it goes up. I'll check weekly, and we will read your review on the show. And we've got a couple for next week.
You know, conversely, if you have a favorite episode, tweet out your favorite episode with a comment about why you like it.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to hear your thoughts on the show so far. So yeah, this has been episode 51. 51. Thank you. Kind of blanked
Is this
out
the start of season 2?
This is technically the beginning of season 2. I mean, we're not going to change.
We're starting strong.
Yeah, we're not changing the numbering or anything, but this is definitely season 2. And I'm glad we got the new logo ready in time for season 2. And we're going to have a lot of fun. Now, there may be an episode next week. There may not. It depends. We're going to be going to Dragon Con next week. Me and Mike will. So...
Mike and I. That's the proper...
I'm in California. I can't go.
I know, but please don't grammar Nazi me.
Well, you know, you're just making yourself more important than me.
Well, I'm the one talking, so... Well, Mike and I, fine. So, anyway, we'll be at Dragon Con. I'll have stickers and stuff like that, so...
We'll hide them and, you know...
Yeah,
like all the extract stuff.
We're gonna be at some of the extract.
There's usually tables Kevin set up with like.
Yeah, I saw that.
Things.
We'll leave some stickers and business cards, and
if you found us that way, welcome, and
yes,
hope you enjoy the stay, or if not, fuck off, go to hell. No.
Go write a 2-star review on Apple.
What's it?
Go write a 2-star review on Apple.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about it for this week. Again, find all the fun stuff you can do involving us at supernatpod.rocks. You can find us on social media at supernatpod on Twitter. We do have a Facebook page if you look up Supernatural Selection Podcast. I'm starting to make some more posts there again. I just hate Facebook so damn bad. You can find David on Twitter at HPComic, HPKOMIC. He has so many projects, including comics, and he's writing for Haunted MTL. So check that out as well. Mike is here every week with us. He is our science officer.
That's a bit strong, but I'll take it.
I'm going to get you some foam Spock ears.
You can't find me anywhere because I'm a ghost. I'm a specter. I leave no footprints on the web.
He's a ninja.
Because I'm on the dark web.
You're not on the dark web.
I'm not on the dark web.
He's not on the dark web at all. Anyway, thank you for listening.
I don't need drugs.
Yeah, that's right. You don't need drugs or any other illicit pornography.
You got the Voynich Manuscript.
Yeah, you can just go through there and masturbate to what looks like a junior high schooler.
Maybe I'll find the answers to deciphering it in post-nut clarity.
That wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Maybe that's what it takes.
I think it was written in post-nut clarity, and you have to decipher
maybe
it in
you have to
post-nut
channel
clarity.
Orgon energy in order to unlock its secrets.
Ooh,
Hey.
Mike, you want to borrow my Orgon crystal?
No.
The one that lady gave me at work?
Because I don't know where it's been.
It's been in a drawer here for months.
I don't know what she did with it.
Oh, God, I touched it.
She probably pre-charged it for you.
Shut the fuck up. Thank you for listening. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time with some more fun. So until then, stay safe and stay frosty. Goodbye.
Later.
It all comes back to Nostradamus.
And post-nut clear.
On masturbation.
Or masturbating to